that bass line is super simple, but it's almost like another one bites the dust, kind of like do do do, like just that constant staccato like bass.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. Yeah. My name's John, his name is Andy. I told you about the walrus and me, man. You know we're as close as can be, man. Well, here's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul. More on that later, perhaps. Not. Um, well, we've got a tune to listen to today, and because it's Friday, yes, it is. The tune has been selected by one of our wonderful viewers. In this case, it is Cosmo Shock 6470 Andy Hock. Um, and they have dropped a comment in an episode we did, Destroyer, Rubies. And guess what? It's another Destroyer song. And it's one which Andy hasn't heard before. So he's the lucky pup who's going to be setting his lug holes around this one. The song being Bay of Pigs, brackets detail. And it's only brackets detail because I couldn't find the other version. But anyway, so Andy, you don't know this Destroyer song.
No, to be fair, I didn't know the last one either until I'd given it a listen sort of before doing the homework for that episode.
Oh, I thought
So,
you served up Destroyer.
no.
It was another viewer one, was it? Pardon
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I believe that was another viewer request because I am not familiar with them. Outside of, what I learned doing the research for that episode. So yeah, I'm interested to hear more from these guys. And I I'm also kind of interested to hear if it's akin to what we've already experienced with One Go Around, but as we've come to find out with some bands that, you shouldn't have always have those expectations. So yeah, I'm outside of just that one track, Ruby's, I'm kind of just flying blind here, so I'd be interested to hear what is on display.
My more of my homework because I swore blind that you'd given it to me, but there you go. Even better, even better.
Okay.
Okay, well, you go off and listen to Bay of Pigs and come back and tell Cosmo Shock Spy 6470 and everybody else what you think.
Will do. I love how they've really this has been a slow burn this entire time with this really interesting ambient sound where we have like this low, almost constant in its resonance, kind of like humming, and there's these pulsating sounds and almost phasing, but like stretched out phasing, not but more kind of phasing, and it kind of like ebbs and flows a bit. And then there is now these what sound like this digital fluttering, like electronic butterflies, fluttering about the soundscape. It's really interesting and it sounds pretty. And I am interested because they've started off this way. It's only built more interest to see where they go from here. Because at 11:18 and only a minute and 20 or so into this, it screams that there are going to be. I mean, I just spoke of butterflies. They go through a metamorphosis, right? I'm expecting the song to do the same thing, you know. And right now, it is sort of like in its caterpillar days. What meek word was that?
Listen, I've been drinking as our house lies in ruin. I don't know what I'm doing, alone in the dark, at the park or at the pier, watching ships disappear in the rain.
I mean, it's really easy to understand what he's saying. One, because it's closer to spoken word than it is to singing, but there is a little bit of like lilt to his voice as he's, going through each of these lines in the stanza. And they're pretty descript. I mean, obviously he's talking about being drunk, and also contemplative and observant, watching these standing in the dark at the pier watching ships disappear in the rain is a pretty illustrative way of describing what he's seeing. So in a way it's helpful, but I'm also wondering like what exactly he means besides that he's either in a coping state or a depressive state and he's just trying to get by, and these are the things that he's observing while in this state. I'm interested to hear where he takes this narrative from here. God, this sounds like what outer space would sound like, or what I assume it would sound like, having never been. Shock, I know. It's like plonking. That's definite plonk. It was like wind chimes.
The world's
plonking.
just bones. The world is black stones dressed up in the rain with no place to go but home, just like Nance on a night like this. Why she's pro stars, pro sky.
Pro stars, pro sky. All right.
All lit up and sick of fighting beneath the diseased lighting of the discotheque at night. It don't mean a thing, it never means a thing. It don't mean a thing, it never means a thing. It's got that swing.
Was that akin to or inspired by Duke Ellington's "It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing"? I mean, I'd be surprised if he accidentally stumbled upon those lines. They seem very similar. Interesting stuff. Also an allusion to a discotheque. Okay. more of that like in outer space sound.
I've seen it all.
Now that part right there sounded equal parts strings and like keys, which is lovely. And one of the few moments thus far where it's like easily discernible what instrument is being used, because a lot of the stuff is very digital in nature, it sounds like, which is something I'm not very familiar with from like a musician standpoint. So yeah, it's kind of a welcome respite, although I really do enjoy that less is more open space, open outer space kind of sound that they had been working with up until then, with these little additives here and there of like chiming or xylophone, if that even is even what that plonking was that I heard earlier. But nonetheless, it's nice to just hear some keys and guitar used in this finally.
I've seen it all. Magnolia's a girl, her heart's made of wood. As apocalypses go, that's pretty good. Sha-la-la, wouldn't you say?
What the fuck? Alright, so WTF on the lyrics, you know, Magnolia is a girl with a heart made of wood, and something about as far as apocalypses go, that's pretty good. That's odd. And then this sound that I didn't have in my bingo card at all. So I'm really surprised to hear this kind of whatever this is, this very synthy forward kind of do 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 do, almost like Morse code punches.
Please remove your spurs. Come to think of it, remove your antlers. Haven't seen you for ages. I still fly into rages at the mention of your name.
Jesus.
Christine, why?
Wait, so is Magnolia her, or is Christine White her? Because he did describe a her earlier in the track. I don't know if I'm going to pick up this narrative at all, which is a shame because you can hear it so clearly. It only makes not being able to puzzle it together in one listen that much more frustrating. But, you know, hopefully John can shed light on that. Finally starting to get some beat.
I think about you often, off in the desert, laughing your head off in the forest of the night. Say a prayer for the light. So now I live well, I live in the mine. I'm still slinging mud at the towers all the time. I took a walk and threw up in an English garden.
Is he still drinking? His chords are pretty. These acoustic guitar chords. Oh, hello, man. I like her voice here. I don't know if I like that annoying synth sound happening along with her. Let's just take that back a little bit. I know I said I don't like it, but I do like her. It's yeah, I just don't think I'm digging that down underneath.
I was born in the north, but my father's from the south.
Oh, we got a rhythm section.
There's a political
How
beast
about it?
with jaws for a mouth, I don't care. You're upset and have every right to be. Regretfully you decline. Every night was a waste of time. Every night, every night, every night. You're on the side of good. I was inside of the sea's guts.
Inside of the sea's guts, good lord. Yeah, this almost has this weird modern disco-y feel to it now. Like this could be like roller rink music or something. I didn't anticipate this being where we'd end up, but here we are.
A crumbling beauty trapped in a river of ice. A crumbling beauty trapped in paradise. Oh yes, it was paradise. The tide comes in and the tide goes out again. I suppose this is the kind of thing we see every day. The tide comes in, the tide goes away. Oh, the tide comes in, yeah, the tide, yes, the tide. A ransom note written on the night sky above reminds me what in particular about this wine I love. Like a punctured beast, better off dead. Compliments go into my head, la da da, la da da. Speaking of my mind, the sunflower. And speaking of a world turning sour on you, I was 20 years old in 1992. I was bathed in golden sunlight, alright. Whipped on dope, you were a ray of sunshine. I was a hopeless romantic, you were swine. You've got to spend money to make money. You've got to stop calling me honey. Oh, world, you fucking explosion that turns us around. The searchlight slumps over, so sick of the night. And the kids on the boats, busted in the shipyard, going down, 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 down. You travel light all night, every night to arrive at the conclusion of the world's inutterable secret. And you shut your mouth.
All right, come on, bass.
I've seen it all. I've seen it all.
He's seen it all.
I've seen it all.
Those chords are nice. Nice bass.
Free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental. For me, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud.
Nancy?
Free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental. For me, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud. Free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental. For me, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud. Free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental. For me, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud.
Okay. What an interesting song. You know what? You run a chance of this happening when you have a song that's 11 minutes and 18 seconds. And that is... Did I love everything that I heard in that track? No. I didn't. There were parts of the more synthy bits kind of were not my bag. But I did like a vast majority of it. And I thought that there were really interesting shit that they did in here. The two voices I didn't see coming, and I really love the way they paired at the end. That's sort of like indie pop disco-y kind of portion grew on me, actually. I found it a bit jarring at first, but then as it unfolded and, they went left and then came back to it, I honestly began to like it a bit more. I really loved the sound of that acoustic guitar just going through those chords, in a very like upbeat way. That rhythm section was really great too, and the song, to be fair, was kind of begging for that, with how much stretched out, interesting, ambient, ethereal shit was happening for the first like almost 2/3 of that track. It did need a change, and it begged for it. And I even assumed that it would happen to all the way back to my, you know, allegory about the butterfly and the changing from a caterpillar and all that stuff. The song needed to undergo the same sort of transition, and to be fair, it did. I was so never have I heard lyrics in a song on this channel that were so discernible and yet left me so confused. There's obviously a or more females that are, the subject of at least portions of his stanzas, but it also seemed kind of introspective too at the same time. Even to that last repeated line of like free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental for me. Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud, which is almost like Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Like, without context, what the hell does that line mean? I can't even, drill it down to OLSD. There's nothing to be taken from that, at least for me. I don't know. John, I hope, who I'm pretty sure hasn't heard the song either, kind of did his homework on it and can tell me a bit more of what it's about. The song was a success. I did enjoy the whole process of sitting down and letting it breathe and taking it in. But there were some of those synthy bits weren't exactly my bag, and I can't believe I'm saying this about a song that's almost 11 minutes and 20 seconds, but after this conversation with John, I'd like to listen to it again, especially if there's context provided, so I can go in there with and try to piece together some of what I learned by going back and giving it a second go. Yeah, this was a really interesting track, and it would, to be fair, not exactly what I was expecting given my first listen to Destroyer. So my interest is piqued. I definitely have questions on questions about the narrative. And I wonder how John feels about this track. It's just an interesting one that went through a lot of changes. Part of me thinks that he really, really did like this, but I'm wondering what he thought of that latter bit. I don't know. That's just my own curiosity there, I suppose. Hell, this song has drummed up a lot of curiosity in me. So let's go exchange thoughts with John and see what he has to say.
Drop the kids off at the pool. He's back. So you've paddled away in the Bay of Pigs. What do you reckon?
This was a really another interesting listen with these guys, and as you'll probably have, or the chances are more likely with a song that is of a certain length, maybe if you're lucky, all of it will be in, will tick every box. But the longer it goes, the more chances there are of there being some things that speak to you and some that don't as much. There were far more in this track that did than didn't. So that in and of itself is kind of a success when you're dealing with an 11-minute track. But let me get into it. So the song begins in such a way that suggests it will be a slow burn. I mean, obviously the timestamp would suggest that as well, but if you removed all of that and I was fine completely blind, this sound at the beginning and the way they build kind of, lead you to that conclusion. And we get treated to these like low pulsating sounds and some interesting digital sounds that kind of like in an elongated way phase in and out. It's not like but it's more like, and it's really interesting. I know that that is not exactly the most technical way of describing those sounds, but it was one listen, and I'm working with what I've got here. But I did really like that. The the more the sound like slowly emerges in like an ebb and flow fashion, so you can hear it building and getting closer, and then it fades. And at the 111 mark, we're introduced to this like digital fluttering that dances across the soundscape like, instead of electric sheep, we've got electric butterflies here. And it's funny, I didn't mean to do this, but in a way, this song was like the metamorphosis of, a caterpillar into a butterfly. So I accidentally stumbled into this sort of, metaphor or analogy that we've got on our hands here, because it does start off very basic but interesting nonetheless, and ends up at this place that I had no idea was in the cards. So that was really a lot of fun to watch unfold. So one moment they're floating upward, and in the next you hear them descend a bit downward, and back and forth this fluttering bit goes. And at the 138 mark, I pick up on a faint voice in the background, and it appears again, seemingly repeating the same line or something very similar. And this time it's much closer, though, to be fair, it isn't making it any easier to discern. I know it's like a short monosyllabic word that begins with an S. Sound or soon. I'm not really sure what it is. And it's kind of meek sounding too. And this is all over top that digital fluttering and phasing sound that I mentioned earlier. And then the singer's voice comes more into and much more into focus as he expands on his vocabulary, and he delivers the lines, listen, I've been drinking as our house lies in ruin. And he talks about being unsure of himself and being alone in the dark at the pier watching ships disappear in the rain. So he's really painting a vivid picture of someone a bit depressed and trying to cope, albeit not in the most healthy way. But I still don't exactly have a great deal of context about I mean, we're only in the opening stages here, but there's not a lot of context provided. There's a lot of detail about like observations. But outside of that, there's not a lot of like dot connecting I'm able to do. And this is a reoccurring theme as the verses unfold throughout this song. This is followed by more of that ethereal sound that really leans on sustain and fade to create this kind of dramatic effect, like the musical version of a deep sigh. But it also, speaking of deep, reminds me of deep space. There is this constant, like, white sound almost that is, in my mind, no surprise to anyone. I haven't done any extraterrestrial or intergalactic travel, but if I were to, I know. But this sound is what I would think you would hear in like by yourself in the hull of a spaceship, just whirring around. But yeah, go on. I see you chuckling and raising a finger over there. What do you have to add here, John?
Well, one, you must be one of the few Americans that hasn't been abducted. Sorry.
Good, because if you see the class of people that are the ones that get abducted, I'm glad I'm not at that level, if I'm going to be
Yeah, yeah.
honest with
And that's why they haven't invaded. um,
you. Keep taking those people. You're right. That's probably deterring them. Like they're not there yet.
it's just when you mentioned about space and stuff, it just brought into mind a thought I had is you can liken the start with that slow phasing, as you said, opposed to, it's less Giorgio Moroder and it's more Pink Floyd. And it just reminds me of that bit in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when they arrive on that planet towards the end, and they come out and there's this, and he turns around and he says, "You tell your robot to stop humming Pink Floyd, please." Um, It just reminds me of that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Right.
And that's a fair point. I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely right. So the singer begins again after the first few words and after the first few words come, he changes his pacing and cadence a little bit. And yes, while it's still hardly emphatic, there is more life to his delivery during this stanza. He recites something about the world being just bones and black stones dressed up in the rain. And it's a lovely line. Again, I'm not exactly sure of what he's talking about other than the immediate observations that he's making about his surroundings. I think I missed the next line, but I pick back up where he's saying something about a her being pro stars and pro sky, which is interesting because I was just in outer space because of the sound that they were making, and now he's alluding to the heavens. In the moments after this, while the music again is given time to breathe, there appears to be this faint chiming sound, like the tink of something distant and metallic. And the singer rejoins again, and I think with an allusion to being drunk, as he mentioned being all lit up and sick of fighting. So I assume all lit up means you're all lit up on alcohol or something like that. He then rattles off a few more lines that seemingly resolve on him like making a reference to Duke Ellington's "It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing." Although in this case, I think it does have that swing. If I'm remembering his lines correctly, which was a really interesting illusion, and maybe the last song that was on my mind when I was listening to this. Like, yeah, Floyd, that would have come to mind. I don't know if I like had if you give me a million shots, I would have like been like, ah, yes, Duke Ellington comes to mind. So I thought that was it kind of made me laugh a little bit. Shortly after the 4:10 mark, and over this open space that has been the musical landscape to this point, we're introduced to the plonking and plucking of notes that sound simultaneously key and string based, and they seem to cascade and splash like raindrops on a sidewalk. He then delivers an interesting stanza, as if they all aren't, that opens with him repeating the lines, "I've seen it all," and a reference to a magnolia being a girl with a heart made of wood. uh, he also mentioned something about that being a pretty good apocalypse. It's nice to hear that he's a glass half full kind of guy. Uh, and it's after this stanza that we get this first real taste of frenetic energy in the form of these very synth-like lines from the 440 to the 456 mark. And this gives way to another stanza of lyrics that not only do get treated to the first semblance of a beat with that metronomic timekeeping strike, but we also get finally the name of the subject of the narrator's prose, Christine White. Like this, the way he says white at the end is just so interesting. So yeah, Christine White. Don't know who that is. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. Things get airy from here, like a circular breeze has kicked off, which is only further enhanced by the wind chime like sounds to go with this whooshing that can be heard during this bit. Each line of the next stanza of lyrics is punctuated by these thick synthy chord strikes, and the stanza itself, when complete, is followed by these almost manic sounding synth flutters that soon fade, leaving that resonant ethereal sound in their wake. Now, this is where some of the choices aren't exactly, winning me over. It's as it starts to become too synth heavy, it's not as interesting to me as the kind of open space that the song was being afforded earlier, which is interesting because I usually love frenetic energy in music, but I guess it all depends on how it's packaged and what's creating that sound.
Framing
And in
it.
this, yeah, yeah, and in this case, it almost seemed to detract a little bit for me, like it was too forward or powerful, and thus kind of robbing the oxygen in the song at parts. It's not, it's a minor issue I'm taking it overall. I really did like the song. And you've got to tip your hat for the experimentation that it takes to go through some of these decisions or to land on them. They just didn't exactly, woo me, which is completely fine. They not like they were supposed to. Um, so at the end of the next stanza, the singer describes himself getting sick in an English garden. Who hasn't been there? This line is punctuated, I guess me, by is punctuated by this bright strum of the guitar that continues as the singer vocalizes these da 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 da's, and is joined by the voice of a woman, and more of that synth noodling, which again is a little distracting, because I really did love the way her voice paired with his, and it was surprising to hear that. But again, synth kind of distracted from that plot twist, and I wanted to focus more on that. And more of a more progressive beat drops, and he sings of being born in the North and his father being of the South. As this stanza continues to unfold, the music becomes more upbeat, and we get hand claps and this jaunty guitar chord progression to the point where it's almost like that 2010s indie rock sound is married with like what would be modern disco. It's just a really interesting sound that I didn't think was going to unfold based off the early days of the track. So again, surprising. And at this point, I'm not loving that. But surprise, they go away from it and then come back to it. And for some reason, when they come back to it the second time, I kind of like it. I don't know what it is, if it's won me over or if it now makes sense to me. But it grows on me. I'll say that. He sings of crumbling beauty trapped in paradise. All of these words are so flowery and these phrases so lovely, but I don't understand a lick of what they mean in the grand scheme of thing. Again, absent of any real context. Um, Also, there's an allusion to a ransom note being written on the night sky that reminds the narrator of a wine that he really loves, which is no surprise because the guy definitely sounds like a drinker this far into the song. And I have to say that while I find a lot of these lyrics interesting, I can't put my finger on their meaning one bit. The song at this point has taken an almost modern disco dance sound, and the female vocalist comes and goes intermittently throughout this portion. She cuts out just as he whisper sings the line, and you shut your mouth, which gives way to the music cutting out, save for the bass and the drum beat, carrying on this rhythmic progression of the song, and the singer repeating, "I've seen it all." And it's almost that bass line is super simple, but it's almost like another one bites the dust, kind of like do do do. Like just that constant staccato like bass, and it's enough to make it. That's all it takes to make you go like this, and get into it. Go ahead.
The first time I heard it, listening to this, I was like, another one bites the dust, but it just slightly morphed into, I think, a more 80s groove. Sort of last night a DJ saved my life or something like that. It's just a
Okay.
bit more
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it just the starting point was definitely Queen though.
Exactly, exactly. That's exactly where my brain went to. I'm glad that there's strength in numbers, even if that number is only two. But yeah, I heard the same thing. um, so yeah, he says something about I've seen it all, or he repeats that line, and the music rejoins in that last repetition of that line. And when it comes back, we have these nice key chords kind of punctuating the soundscape with that beat. And from here, the modern disco vibe returns along with the female vocalist as she and the male singer exchange and at times combine on certain lines. And you can hear the acoustic guitar strumming away. And I did love the sound of that acoustic guitar just strumming through that chord progression. It gave the song life. Perhaps that is the one, even though I think I like the outside the box, less is more approach to the beginning. Um, that was missing this kind of hooky, bit of good of music that gets ingrained in you or like becomes a musical earworm. And this chord progression is a perfect example of that and something that the first portion, two-thirds of the song was kind of missing. So I guess this is an example of how this bit grew on me as it went through. And now I'm confused as the name Nancy is being peppered in throughout. And I have no idea who Nancy is. So I think we've got like three, like whoever Magnolia is, whatever that nickname is. Then we've got, Christine White, which is like very government name, and this, surnameless Nancy. So yeah, interesting stuff. And after finally they deliver the this repeated stanza, we it is, I think, free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental. For me, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud, which doesn't have the same ring to it as Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, but without context is no less confusing. And it doesn't even have the little like acronym trick where you're like, oh, it's LSD. So I have no idea what this, Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud means. I don't think this is a track I would have normally flocked to, but I do have to say that sitting here and being committed to the experience, it was lovely to hear it all unfold and progress and evolve. It's one of those songs that is far less predictable than a lot of other tracks that we've covered on the channel. Now, maybe those predictable songs I've enjoyed more, in some cases, not in every case or every instance of that. But there was something to be said about the experimentation of this, the slow burn, the, forgive me, the caterpillar to butterfly metamorphosis that took place. And I enjoyed the added bits of atmosphere, particularly in the opening two-thirds of the track. I wasn't completely sold on the upbeat modern disco-like portion toward the end, but it is hard to deny the engaging upbeat nature of it. And it's also hard to argue that the song didn't need something at least akin to that to give it some zhuzh at the in the latter stages of the track. But probably what intrigues me the most about it, it's probably not going to come to a surprise you, but I mean, given the title, just the lyrics in general. You know what I mean? I thought this was going to be another one of these great tracks that kind of like harkens to a historical moment. You know what I mean? Before I press play, obviously. But then upon pressing play, I mean, I'm sort of even more in the dark than I was before I had, because I don't understand how this correlates to Bay of Pigs unless he's talking about all of these women in a very derogatory way. And it's just sort of like, this is my history with love and this bay of pigs I've dealt with, this Magnolia, Nancy, and Christine. I have no idea. But despite the fact that there are many of them, I'm left no more confident in understanding the lyrics. And coupled with that evocative title, I'm really interested in hearing more about the song's meaning and to whom it was aimed. So please tell me what you discovered in your research on this, John, because if I'm not mistaken, this you're I'm almost 100% sure. It's not like you hadn't heard the previous Destroyer song, but you were somehow familiar with this one, right? This was also new to you upon first listen. All the more reason that I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this one as well. So, tell me more and tell me what your thoughts were, bud.
All right, thanks for that, Andy. Yeah, just okay. I'll get into it in a sec, but just sort of my quick two pence worth on this song. So yeah, it's interesting. I think this is clearly a sort of ode to a lot of 80s music and motifs. I'd say like that sort of open Floydish, and we're joking about it, there's sort of like synth at the beginning, is a sort of like, distilling downwards of elements, and then he sort of draws on them. And quite a bit of it, I think, is this almost, it starts and grows throughout it, this sophisticated pop, sort of almost prefab sprout background to the acoustic guitar and stuff. And then he embellishes in between stanzas with various elements of the 80s. You get that hard synth crashing. It's only for like 20 seconds, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
reminded me of Tron or something. And then you had like real sort of electro drums smacking away and other
yeah,
bits and pieces. And then the woman coming in, as you quite rightly say, the sort of disco-y bit, and then the sort of 80s groove funk. So yeah, it's all these bits. I thought the lyrics were great. It was very much, I think, a stream of consciousness almost.
yeah,
There are little sort of like vignettes of what was going on within his mind's eye at that time. There's no narrative at all, I don't think. The he does mention Nancy at the start, but as Nance, and then it
Oh,
becomes Nancy. And that was one of the few lines you said you missed, Nance. And there's other bits in here. I have some explanations. I have some annotated bits from the lyric website, some of
okay.
which is bollocks. But
Terrific.
we'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy it nonetheless. So, as we mentioned before, and I got completely wrong, so I thought it was Andy that brought it to the table, but it was another via request. We did an episode before, and I reacted to, as I said, Rubies. So, Andy did a great job reviewing it, so much so he convinced me in my memory that he knew all about this band. So, I'll put a link in to that episode there. You can go off and look at that and glean some more information. Just to recap very, very briefly, Destroyer are a Canadian indie rock and other genres band from Vancouver. What's that all about? They're formed in 1995. They're fronted by founding member and lead vocalist Dan Bijar, and he's really the sort of the glue, as it were. And then there is a collective, that word again, where regular band members come in and collaborators as well, joining in the studio and for live performances as well. And they sort of come and go. So this is taken from their ninth album, Kaput, which was released in 2011. And the personnel for this is really helpful, the way they've described it. Daniel Bajar, composition and musician. Ted Bois, musician and cover photography. Pete Bourne, musician. Nicholas Bragg, musician. John Collins, musician, engineer and production. Joseph Shabason, musician. Additional personnel: Sybil Thrasher, musician. Cara Walker, composition, and J.P. Carter, trumpet. I don't know why he's got,
Yeah. One
very odd.
definitive instrument. Everyone else is just, they tinker around with music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a one-trick pony. Kaput received widespread critical acclaim from music critics upon its release. At Metacritic, as we all know, the sort of aggregator score,
Mm.
it got an average score of 84, indicating universal acclaim. The
Mhm.
album was also named as a shortlisted one of 10 nominee for the 2011 Polaris Music Prize Award. Um, in a five-star review, The Guardian newspaper was complimentary of the album's stylistic similarities and lyrical allusions to 1980s pop culture, writing that Kaput swerves accusations of archness or kitsch because of the strength of its songs. The album feels like an open love letter to a vanquished pop era. It's unique and warm and beautiful, as love letters are supposed to be. NME called it Daniel Bajar's finest work to date, and excessive but irresistibly so. Pitchfork placed Kaput second in their list of the top 50 albums of 2011. It also placed on a year-end best album list from Uncut, number 31, and Mojo, 41. In 2013, Pitchfork ranked the album number 22, excuse me, in their list of 200 best albums of the 2010s. In the same year, Pitchfork also ranked Chinatown, which is a track off that, number 86 in their list of 200 best songs of the 2010s. So, fans all round. So the lyrics. I've got some notes which I'll go through afterwards. So he says twice, as you quite rightly say, soon. Listen, I've been drinking as our house lies in ruin. I don't know what I'm doing, alone in the dark, at the park or at the pier, watching ships disappear in the rain. The world's just bones. The world is black stones dressed up in the rain, with no place to go but home. Just like Nance. On a night like this, why, she's pro stars, pro sky. It's funny because here it looks like pro ski. Anyway, all lit up and sick of fighting beneath the diseased lighting of the discotheque at night. It don't mean a thing. It never means a thing. It don't mean a thing. It never means a thing. It's got that swing. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Magnolia's a girl. Our hearts made of wood. As apocalypse go, that's pretty good. Shalala, wouldn't you say? And then we get those harsh 80 cents coming in. Please remove your spurs. Come to think of it, remove your antlers. Haven't seen you for ages. I still fly into rages, the mention of your name. Christine White. Electro drums and other shenanigans. I think about you often, off in the desert, laughing your head off in the forests of the night. Say a prayer for the light. So now I live well. I live in the mine. I'm still slinging mud at the towers all the time. I took a walk and threw up in an English garden. Da-di-da-di-da-di-dum, etc., etc. I was born in the north, but my father's from the south. Love is a political beast with jaws for a mouth. I don't care. You're upset and have every right to be. Regretfully, you decline. Every night was a waste of time. Every night, every night, every night. You on the side of good. I was inside of the sea's guts. A crumbling beauty trapped in a river of ice. A crumbling beauty trapped in paradise. Oh, yes, it was paradise. The tide comes in, the tide goes out again. I suppose this is the kind of thing we see every day. The tide comes in, the tide goes away. Oh, the tide comes in. Yeah, the tide. Yes, the tide. A ransom note is written on the night sky above. Reminds me what, in particular, about this wine I love. Like a punctured beast, better off dead, compliments going to my head. La da da, la da da. And speaking of my mind, the sunflower, and speaking of a world turning sour on you, I was 20 years old in 1992. I was bathed in golden sunlight, all right. I was ripped on dope. You were a ray of sunshine. I was a hopeless romantic. You were swine. You've got to spend money to make money. You've got to stop calling me honey. Stupid voice. Oh, world, you fucking explosion that turns us around. The searchlight slumps over, so sick of the night. The kids in the boats, busted in the shipyard, going down, 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 down. You travel light all night, every night, to arrive at the conclusion of the world's unutterable secret, and you shut your mouth. Do-do-do, do-do. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Seen it all. Free and easy, gentle, gentle. The wind through the trees makes you mental for me. Nancy in a state of crisis on a cloud. And that repeats 4 times. And that is it. So the song is a slightly shorter version, the same song, that's why it's got detail in bracket, that appeared on Bay of Pigs EP, released in August 2009. So this version cuts the song down from 13:39 to 11:18, removing some of the ambient instrumental portions, but without losing any of the lyrics. So you still got the full meaty goodness. The title comes from the failed invasion of Cuba during the Kennedy crisis. Shit. Dan Bajar noted to the Village Voice, I don't think the song in every line is trying to document these events.
Yeah, no shit.
Though I was at one point thinking about Jacqueline Kennedy. And for some
There
reason,
you go.
they're so linked to the Bay of Pigs. And for some reason, when I think of that era, I think of the Bay of Pigs. I don't know if that's normal for Americans when they think of the early 60s and the Kennedy administration to think of the Bay of Pigs. So that's his explanation, not what you would call helpful. So there's a few annotations from the lyric website Genius. I sometimes think a lot of these are AI because they say things like, it's dark outside. Easy playing, but the sun has set and now the moon is out. Stuff like that is really terrible. But some of these are put, I think this. So some of these are human. So I'm going to have to scroll up and down because my Word document's not working properly. So at the start, when he says, I've been drinking as a house lies in ruin, I don't know what I'm doing alone in the dark. They put this note in. Aging is arguably one of the main themes in this song. The lyrics sound like those of a man looking back on his entire life, regretting the wastefulness of his early years, reflecting on old relationships and feeling as though he is not making use of the time he has left. This line in particular paints a picture of somebody wandering through the years, trying to find a meaningful way to spend them, but ultimately falling short of achieving that goal. The way this sets up the following verses, the track has feelings somewhere between bitter and nostalgic, and the two mingle in a very beautiful way. I think some of that's bollocks, but some of that does make sense. There is a reflective quality at the start. This seeing the ships disappear in the rain sort of thing is kind of like a memory thing, I think, and isn't it? And he's right, there is a bit of a sort of nostalgic and bittersweetness to it. Next note. All lit up. Now I'm sick of fighting beneath the diseased lighting of the discotheque at night. Now you quite rightly, same as me said, all lit up probably means um here, presumably he's still talking about Nance or Nancy here, all dressed up in the discotheque, yet wishing she was out somewhere else. Um,
Hmm.
she's lit up by the, and he's put in the diseased artificial light of the dance floor, as he said there, and likely lit up with alcohol stroke drugs as well. Perhaps she's in disagreement with friends, other patrons, and wants to leave, or maybe she's struggling to find someone to spend the night with, sick of fighting to find love, stroke lust. Either way, she wants to change her scene, but her only option this moment is to go home. Um, Also note the contrasting images of natural versus artificial lighting with the line above as well. At this time, Nance is more pro outside than pro in the club, which I think is quite a funny line anyway. And then it says here afterwards that a reference to the standard "I don't mean a thing" recorded by Duke Ellington. Destroyer questions the assumption that if it has got that swing, is catchy or popular, then it is legitimate. This anticipates the optimism of the next few years and probably the next few stanzas as well, to be fair. Yeah, the next bit is really interesting. Christine White. So, in a 2009 interview with Village Voice, Bajar talks about choosing the name Christine White and surprised to learn of the actress of the same name. So Village Voice says, "Is that the TV actress of that era? Google knew her name, I didn't." Bajar, "The name just came to me, and I was worried that it actually was a person that existed, more than a person that existed on television or in film at some point. I thought maybe it's somebody who existed in this town somewhere, and I didn't want to be out of the case. But so far, so good. What did you come up with?" Village Voice says, "A woman called Christine White was actually a TV actress during the Kennedy administration." Which who would have thought? So Christine Lamson White was an American actress, most noted for her role in the TV show Twilight Zone, the particular episode Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. I don't know if you remember that once, but the guy's freaking out, thinking there's gremlins taking stuff out of the plane apart.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
See you next time. I have a picture of her, and I shall drop it in the episode here so everyone can see. The lovely Christine White. So there you go. Um, the next bit was he says about in the forest of the night, laughing ahead from the forest of the night, say a prayer for the light. Um, First and last stanza of William Blake's The Tiger. Tiger, tiger, burning bright
Very
in the
bright in
forest
the
of the
forest
night.
of the night. What a
Why the
mortal
willful
hand
hammer?
or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So there's the bit in there, and then the next sort of reference is I was born in the north, but my father's from the south. It could refer to Bajar's residence in the north of Northern America, Canada, and his father's origin in the south of Europe, Spain. Also invokes a more generalized geopolitical tension between the global north and south, perhaps suggesting complex personal imbrication in the dynamics of imperialism to which the song's title refers. Yeah, I think this is a stretch. The "I don't care" bit seems to toss this thought aside, and the song moves on to the next in its dizzying series of fragments. um, and the last note of any sort of noteworthy is when he says, "I was ripped on dope, you were a ray of sunshine." I was bathed in golden sunlight. Sorry, all right. And it says, as the previous section noted, Bajar was bathed in golden sunlight, meaning that he was completely in love with this girl when he was young. Maybe. me and all sorts of things. And then there's some really bad notes after that. So I stopped. I ran out of patience and stopped there. So there's some bits there that can make some sort of sense.
Yeah.
I would say overall with this, like you say, it's an experimental piece, for want of a better word. It definitely attempts some stuff, and I think some bits stick and some bits don't.
Yeah.
I could see in the comments on the link which I gave you for this, just scrolling down, there was many people who said this is my favorite song ever, and I could see that being the case for certain people. It wasn't for me. Although it was interesting, really interesting. And as you like, same as you, I think some bits stuck the landing and some bits fell on their ass.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds like we're on the same page then. I had a similar experience. Yeah.
yeah. But I definitely enjoyed it, and I thought it was really, even songs that don't quite hit the mark, if they're doing something interesting, and this certainly was, really sort of caught my attention. So yeah,
Exactly.
there's a lot of fat on this song as well, though, and I think there was on Ruby's as well, as well, being honest, and that's kind of his thing, and that's how he processes things. So fair enough. I think
Yeah.
if you're into it, you're into it. Um, but no, that's my two penneth worth and all the stuff I've done on it. So I should wrap things up and say thanks, Cosmo Shock Spy 6470,
Yeah.
for suggesting this. This is really interesting. Got both
It
of
was
us sort
cool.
of involved in it. I would say it's my favourite song that we listened to this year, but definitely worth listening to. And I think something I'll probably will go back to, actually, to be fair, because there's a lot
Yeah.
to digest as well.
And I think between this and Ruby's, it's enough to make you interested to hear more from them or do some experience, like some, checking out of their other stuff when we do revisit those tracks, because he's got something going here. Now, it's not going to be a hit 10 out of 10 times, but it's enough that he's a solid musician. He's got an interesting mind when it comes to crafting his song. So, yeah, I really enjoy giving this one a go too. So I second everything you said, buddy.
Yeah, and this is the ninth album. This is 2011. So I didn't count up, but I think there's about 16, 17 albums. And I think he's changed tack on quite a few of them. So
Yeah.
you can be easy panning for gold and find something within that, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway, thanks again, Cosmo Shocks. Bye. Folks out there, tell us what you think. Please hit the like button if you like this and drop some comments. Be really intrigued to hear what you make of it all, and
Yeah.
probably do it a bit more succinctly than us two have done over the last bloody 40 odd minutes. But yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. We are well past the 2000 mark now. That's unless Andy's hit the salute in the last episode, lost us loads of subscribers. Joking. Um,
Thanks.
and if you're thinking as well, no, it was a salute to Elon Musk, really. But no, and if you're thinking, how come you've done Cosmo Shock 6470 song? All you need to do is drop a comment in any of our episodes. We will add it to the list. We will go back to the list. We will cut the list up into small pieces and bury them in the garden and see what grows. And we will get through the list. We will. That being said, thanks so much for watching. And we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys. This is a peace sign, by the way. This is the only gestures that I do.